It's that thing of the like, if there's not a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. Why can't we just like get rid of the table and all sit on the floor? I always loved theater from a very young age. My mom always talks about I would perform for my babysitter, like full productions of Cinderella, where I would play all the parts.
Was it Black Cinderella?
It was at first it was like Disney animated Cinderella, but I had a whole. My life changed when the Whitney Brandy Cinderella. I mean, if you knew the frequency with which I watched that recording session. Heaven. And I do remember when I was a kid, I don't know how old I was, probably 5, we saw A Christmas Carol at Madison Square Garden with Ben Vereen. And I just like, I so clearly remember Ben Vereen's smile and just thinking like that. So like, I just was always obsessed with theater, and around the time I was 13, 14, getting into high school, I just started getting opportunities to participate in it far more. I had a great high school theater teacher who, when I was like in acting 1 or theater 1, she said to me, "You have the brain of a director, like you should look at that." And she gave me opportunities to direct all through high school. I was directing at my church. I directed James Baldwin's The Amen Corner at my church when I was 15. Which, like when I think about that, I'm like, that church did not read that play. Went to NYU. I focused on directing. And then I was like, okay, I just need to start my career. And I got very, very fortunate that about 6 months after I graduated, assist at the KC Rep, which led to the full-time job there. Eric Rosen, the former artistic director of Kansas City Rep, he opened so many doors for me that I didn't know I wanted open. I assisted him on one show, and he said, "Come, let me teach you, let me show you." And I got to work with him for 6 years and just learn how a theater works. And then also through that, Marissa Wolf, who is now my boss, and she gave me, I mean, even like our first conversation, she gave me a piece of career advice that was so meaningful at the moment that I don't think she understood that, like, what a huge impact those words had, because we had literally known each other for 12 hours. But then just over the last almost 6 years, which is crazy, like with Marissa, I've gotten to assist her, I've gotten to co-direct with her, I've gotten to be a co-producer with her, and now to be out here in Portland with her is just, it's such a gift. And I feel so lucky to have so many other, including these 2 amazing artists, mentors in my life.
Awesome. And it's like a lift as you rise, because you've been a career ally for me as someone has been for you, and then the cycle just continues. That's really cool.
Well, I guess it's that thing of the like, if there's not a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. Why can't we just like get rid of the table and all sit on the floor? Like, you know?
That's the most theater thing I ever heard, and I love it.
Or like, I think that's, I mean, the reality is, to be a person of color in theater administration there are not many of us. And you want to do everything to say, what I had to go through, I don't want the next person to have to go through. I've been very lucky to work with groups of people who respect me and see me. And yet there is still the reality of like, when you are the only person of color in the room, when you're the only Black person in the room, you find yourselves in such uncomfortable conversations. And you have to hope that you're opening the door so that, like, 1, the conversation can get more complex and more interesting and fuller, but 2, so that next person who comes in the door, those conversations have already been had. I think it is about saying we all belong here. Again, of like that imagining of the future that you want to see. I mean, the future of the theater in my mind is it's completely equitable, artists everywhere. We are telling stories about every walk of life, every type of person in a way that is filling and true. And so if we keep having the same people in charge, it doesn't become that. A diversity of perspectives inside any organization is part of the strength of that organization, because it's just a diversity of ways of solving problems. I don't want 10 people who think the same way on my team. I want 10 people with completely unique ways of doing something so that we can take the best of each of us and make something greater. Yeah. And I think part of it is like, it is a mix of like, these systems are broken. There's a funnel now of how to get to the place, and access to get into the funnel gets further and further and further away for most people. And at the same time, I think what is beautiful that's happening because of the internet, all of these POC, queer people, trans people, people with disabilities that are crowdsourcing information on the internet in a way to support each other in, hey, the system is rigged against us. Here are the tricks that I've learned. Until we can dismantle the system, here are the tricks I've learned to navigate the system. And I guess the hope is we have to be doing two things at once. We have to be working, particularly if we have made it inside of the system, to dismantle it from within. That's not to destroy the theaters, no, like the whole point is to keep the institution living, but to dismantle the systems of inequity that are inherent in these. How do you dismantle them from within while also saying, here's the way to get here. Here, like, and while the system is still in place, this is what I've learned. These are the things that I've done. This is what was.
This is how to get in, and this is how to change it simultaneously. But do you find that you have to be careful that you don't get fatigued, because it's like Chip Miller versus institution? And like you said, when you're the only person of color or one of few persons of color or whatever minority, that there's this burden to do the heavy lifting because you want to make that change. Because I know that there's times where you have been the only one clanging the bell for a particular piece or for a particular thing to happen. And I know that that can't be easy. That has to cause some kind of fatigue.
Yes. And I think most importantly is knowing how to pick your battles. I hate battles. Like, I don't, and I guess that's ultimately the thing, is that it feels like a war. But like, battling institutional racism is a war.
You gotta call it what it is.
And fighting with someone whose mind you're not going to change, or fighting with not someone whose mind you're not going to change, but someone who doesn't want to make space for the possibility that they might need to change.
Yeah.
I just don't think I have the energy for that anymore. And so I've stopped making space. And like, if you need me to explain racism to you, we have nothing to really talk about. And then I have those conversations with the white allies at work who I think are ready to have real conversations. And then I think they are the ones who can be having the, like, here's racism 101. Like, here, like, because I just don't, I've done it enough.
Yeah.
But I think it's like anything, is the most important thing is to know thyself and know what you can handle. And you learn what you can handle by trying to handle too much. And I think you just have to approach all of it. Of life is balance, and knowing that, I mean, we're in a week of like just seeing violence perpetuated against Black people in this country, and also trying to remind myself, like, and there are Black people dancing around this country, and there is joy. Like, I can't swallow a steady diet of Black pain, because if I do, then that's the only part of myself that I'm expressing. And there's so much more. But in doing that, I have to keep making space for the pain. It's all can exist at once. Being inside of these institutions, you see how slow progress is and how hard the work is to shift the culture of a historically white institution. Because there are a lot of factors that are not in your control. And ultimately part of the system is capitalism. And that these not-for-profit theaters who the goal is art production have to exist within a capitalist structure that is inherently dehumanizing, demoralizing, and racist and classist. And so it's our responsibility is to make art and to present the art that we feel is the most vital and important. And also to make that art, we're in the catch-22 of having to participate in this larger system. The grand question that the American theater continues to ask itself is like, how do we diversify audiences? Well, I think it's you diversify not only the work that's on stage, but the people who are making the work. And I hate that I have to make this distinction, but like diversity is not just black and white, obviously, which we all know, but like a true sense of diversity in who's getting hired and who's even being considered for jobs. And with that, with the shift in both the work on stage and the people, all the people making it, comes the shift in audience. When we as institutions look at ourselves, we have to ask, what is the community of this building? How does that line up with the audience? How does that line up with the board? How does that line up with the state works on stage? How does that line up with the audience that we want? And I think that you'll see there's far more correlation between like, what do you look like as an organization and what does your audience look like? And so if we want to change the audience, but not what we look like as an organization, are we actually doing the work?